guys, this is another video for Love Car Reviews. So in previous videos I've talked a bit about the SQ7 and what a great car it is in terms of the drive, the ownership, the size and everything else. But as one of my comments came back in, it was a bit of a boring review, as I was told, because it was in the house. So I did promise that viewer that I would actually do a proper review from the car. I'll do a bit of a talk about why you should buy an SQ7, or should you buy an SQ7 in this case. I'll do a bit of a walk around the car inside and out, show you guys what the car looks like, some of the kind of features it has. We've had the car for almost 2 years, so I've got a bit of insight as to how it is to own an SQ7, and I can give a bit more insight as to is it the right car for you, should you buy one, what are the things to look out for, and yeah, hopefully we'll go from there. So we're going to just start with a bit of a drive, and I'll talk you through some of the, I guess, the pros and cons of having an SQ7. So I think the first thing to mention, I probably said this on the other video as well, is that for the majority, a Q7 is a Q7 in terms of the size, in terms of the structure, in terms of number of seats. There are some things that you won't notice any difference between a SQ7, which I'm in now, and a standard Audi Q7, as it put in the rest of the range essentially. So it is just for the basics, it's a large SUV, it's a 7-seater, and again, I think I said in the previous video again, it's a good, comfortable 7-seater, because I think what's happened is recently with the 7-seater market, it's having 7 seats is enough to call it a 7-seater, which isn't fair in many cases, because if I look at what I would constitute as a 7-seater, there probably aren't that many genuine 7-seater SUVs out there that really work in the UK market. So obviously the Q7, I would say, and I'll show you the seats in a little while, that this is a proper built for 7 seats car, and it's great. It works really well. The comfortable seats, there's enough space for, I would say, 5 adults and maybe 2 smaller adults, or 2 children, like up to probably 12 years old, depending on how tall your kids are, of course. But we went to Scotland with 7 of us in the car. This is the previous generation, I might add, and we had no problem. We had 7 people in the car. We all had enough space to sit. I had to pull my seat forward a little bit because obviously I'm about 5'10", and to give everyone enough leg space, you do have to adjust the seats a little bit, which wasn't too bad in hindsight. You do have a sliver of boot left still to put a couple of days worth of luggage as well, so it's quite cool. So that's one. This is definitely one car I'd say is a proper 7-seater. I think Volvo do a good 7-seater. BMW do their X7 now, and you also have obviously things like the GLS as well from Mercedes. Now these to me are cars that are built for 7 seats. There is space, there is comfort, there's everything else. Now there are cars like the, for example, Mercedes has got their GLE, get it right, which is a 7-seat option. But again, this is a 5-seater, which they kind of managed to shoehorn 7 seats in. And I managed to sit in the back of that car a little while ago, and it's not a 7-seater by any stretch of the imagination. It's a 5-seater. If you need to get 2 young kids in the back, then by all means please do go ahead, but don't make the misconception of thinking that this is a proper 7-seater. I can go away with the kids, the luggage, and everyone's going to be comfortable with full-size adults. It's not that kind of car. So size, space, performance wise, this is a proper 7-seater car, which is kind of my first key point. The second, and while I'm on the motorway now, is about the drive. Now I think, as I mentioned before, it's a 4-litre V8 diesel, putting out around 435 horsepower and oodles of torque. You can go online for the full stats, but it handles well. Put your foot down and it goes. It is a synthesized sound, which I have to forgive, because again, the performance on the car is still there. It's still great. It does sound good, even though, because it is a V8. Ultimately, like it or love it, hate the sound because it's kind of faked a little bit. It is still a high performance V8 car, and when you do put your foot down, it just goes. It picks up instantly and it just keeps going. There's torque. You never run out. Overtaking speeds, you know, on the motorway at any speed, any rev, you can comfortably and safely, I might add, overtake whatever you need to. And that's one thing that is key in terms of having a kind of a high performance car for the motorway. But also something just to kind of take pace across town, country, go for a trip down to the coast. If you want to go, you know, abroad, if you're hopping countries, hopping borders, it's a good, comfortable car for that in terms of pace, in terms of comfort. You know, you're never going to run out of performance, never going to run out of speed, never going to run out of anything like that at all. It's great from that side. The brakes are very sharp, very, very good. They're still quite big brakes given the weight of the car, because it is a hugely weighty car. We're talking 2.5, 3 tons of car, but it doesn't feel like it. The way it drives is, I would say, borderline hatchback. I know I'll get pretty shot down for that one, but in some cases it does feel quite nimble. And this is one of the reasons we kept coming back to the SQ7 even when we had the Cayenne, because it is just a nice, powerful, beefy car to drive. There's lots of trickery in the suspension, the springs, and everything else to keep the car as flat as they can keep it. And now it's not going to be your RS, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it's going to be. That's definitely not what this car is. But when you hit a corner, are you terrified when you're putting a little bit more speed than you would normally? Actually not. Weirdly, I've been really comfortable going through corners, really comfortable going around any kind of bends, and it seems to stick. They've done a lot of work to keep the car flat on the ground. That's one of the great things about it. But yeah, you just plant your foot down and it just goes. But in a very kind of comfortable, refined way. There's no drama to it. Put it in sport, that's a different story, because it does beef up the note on the exhaust. The engine sound, I think that might be pumped through the speakers or something. It definitely sounds a lot louder. It gives you much more of a V8 burble as well, V8 rumble, and it sounds actually quite good. Fake or not, I'm starting to not care as much as I used to be fair. But it is a really good car for motorway driving. It is very cool. It is. Now, stop myself there for a second, because one other thing that's probably worth mentioning is the fuel economy on the car. Now, again, you think diesel, you think motorway cruiser, and you think huge miles per gallon. That's fair. In this car, you probably won't get back what you think you would want to get back in a car like this. So just to check what I'm on now. So on the live reading, and I'll probably show you guys afterwards, I'm doing about 21.7 right now, miles per gallon. Looking at my short-term average, it's 21.9. And that's based on 40 hours of driving in short-term memory. And overall, it's 27.6. Now, as far as diesel cars go, most people I hear brag about 35, 40, 45 miles per gallon, which is kind of what you would expect for a diesel car. But again, a few things to take into consideration. Firstly is how I drive. So yeah, I'm a bit right foot heavy sometimes, and I enjoy a bit of putting a bit of acceleration behind my foot just to have a bit of fun with the car. But also, the majority of my driving are short trips here and there, so it never really gets a chance to build up those MPGs on the motorway doing loads of highway miles. So you probably would, just be realistic, you probably would get 30, 35 miles per gallon doing that type of driving in this car if you're driving sensibly. But again, you put your foot down, you let it rip, you put it into sport, and those numbers drop very, very quickly indeed, because that, again, it is a big capacity engine, it is a lot of weight to move, but it is effortless, but it is still moving, you know, 3 tons of car. It might be more than 3 tons of car. I'll check the stats. So from that side, again, keep that in mind if you're looking to take a car like this. It is a lot of fun. It is hugely rewarding as a car when you drive it. And if you've had to sacrifice kind of your performance car, your performance car for something a little bit more practical to take the family, the kids, the dogs out, it is a good compromise from that perspective. It does always make you smile when you drive it, and it does do things that you wouldn't think a car like this could do. So from that side, absolutely, I would say it is a great car to own. Performance wise, great. No, miles per gallon wise, not so great, but forgiven on the motorway. Comfort wise, as I said, really good for a 7-seater across country. Now when you drop the back row of seats, and again I'll show you all of this when I stop the car to take a look around it, you do have a huge boot. I mean, we have two relatively big, call them 50-kilo Mastiffs. They both the girls, they sit in the boot, no problem at all. They can both fly down in the boot on longer journeys, and they have enough space to do that. And that's one of the great things, and why when we looked at all of the options, there weren't that many that ticked all of the boxes like this one ticks those boxes. Because yeah, you can get bigger cars, sure, you can get more, faster, more practical. There's a lot of different cars that will tick individual boxes. When we looked at one car, as I say, the one ring to rule them all, this is kind of our one car to do everything. We couldn't find much that did what the SQ7 can do. Because if I compare it to probably one of the closest cars that I'm aware of, which is probably the GLS, kind of a 63 call it, yeah, that's a bit faster, a little bit bigger, but it's a lot more expensive. I mean, I think you can probably buy brand new 1.5 of these for the price of a GLS. And then the car I'm sitting in now, which is 2017, which is about 6 years old, we're talking about sort of mid 40,000 pounds, UK pounds. So you get a lot of car for your money, and it's very practical still, but it's just not what the GLS in terms of, a little bit more boot space in the GLS, a little bit more comfort, a little bit more options. But I don't think it drives, from what people have said, in the same way this does, because this does feel super planted, and it just goes, and you can really put it through the corners, and it just grips and goes and goes. And that's the thing, it's insane. As I said, a car like this shouldn't be doing things like this in terms of just being really, really comfortable, being able to handle in terms of performance wise. It's a great car. So from that perspective, so far I would say, should you buy it? More than likely, yeah. So it depends on the driving that you do. I said motorway driving, it's great. Town driving, probably not the SQ7. You won't get any real value back from having the SQ part of the Q7. 7 seats that you need, yeah, absolutely. 7-seater, this is an absolutely great car. So from that perspective, I'll pause for a second. I'll pull up and I'll show you around the car. Okay, so now we've parked up, I want to show you around the SQ7. Now, as I mentioned on the previous video, the car feels black to me, and if you look at it in this light, it is borderline black, but you'll actually notice it's a very, very dark blue. Beautiful blue. I haven't seen many in this color, but really, really nice. Now, a few things around the car as we walk around. So this one I have changed a couple of bits. So you've got the mirrors, which we've wrapped, because they were very dark, probably similar to this color here. So we wrapped the mirrors, we put a side step on just to make life a lot easier for us, and to be honest, I think that was the only two things we did. Everything else is pretty much standard on the car. So it does sit on some beautiful 22-inch, so there's kind of a smoke gray, really nice set of alloys, very, very comfortable. The car rides really nice, as you can see there. V8 turbo, very, very nice engine indeed. And you've got a few little points here, like you've got little Quattro signs down here, same color as the mirrors were previously. So that's kind of the main things as we walk around the car. As you can see, a very, very sunny day today, probably the last sunny day we're going to get this year, but that's okay. So that's kind of your exterior view of the car. So very clean, very nice lights, very nice lines. It's just a cool looking car, in my humble opinion. Now let's take a look inside. Okay, so we'll start off with the cockpit. Just jump in here. The cool thing is, loads of places for bottles. You've got a nice little slot here for your keys as well. Shouldn't be the biggest deal in the world, but yeah, it's quite useful. Put that in. Okay, so let's start button here. It does still have the flip up screen at the top there, so maybe not the most modern just yet. We were debating this the other day, but again, it's a nice looking car inside. I've tried to just leave the things as they are, so this is our kind of daily driver with the family, so you will notice a few things in here which are family car stuff, let's call it. Okay, so with Audi, you know, you can get the option of this steering wheel, or just which is flat bottom, or you've got the kind of normal round steering wheel as per the regular. Steering wheel is electronic, so for me, where has it gone? Over here. I do have a control here to adjust the steering up and down, and it is also telescopic as well, of course, as you'd expect. So that's some of the basic stuff. In terms of controls, so if I look over here, we've got the control system over here with your trackpad, and most of the controls you'll find are either there or here, or on the steering wheel here or here. That's kind of your main places to control your infotainment system, and also everything that happens over here as well. So let's take a look real quick. If I hit nav and then maps, so we've got your normal navigation system here. You've got your telephone connectivity, radio, and your media, which is your Bluetooth, plus plug your phone in. It does have Apple CarPlay. It also has Android Auto, those kind of things, so it's kind of cool. Other things that it does have, so over here you'll notice you've got a view button here as well. So I click on that, you get a slightly different view. So fully electronic infotainment system up the top here, and I can change additional displays. For example, I can click that back, and I can go all the way through to maps as well. I click view and I've got a full map over here as well. So again, that's really quite useful sometimes when you're driving and someone else is playing with that screen over there. The other thing you do have, and again, you should be able to just about make that out over here, is your heads up display. So you can see 0 miles per hour. If I was to put navigation on it, I do get navigation arrows as well, so that's something that's also quite cool. If you see roundabouts, it'll give you like a which exit to come off on the roundabout, stuff like that. So again, all quite cool in terms of functionality, in terms of features. So if I just go into the menu system for a second, so I've got the drive select here. So over the top here, if you can see that, okay. So I'm in dynamic at the moment. I've got auto, comfort, efficiency, all road. I've got lift as well, which again brings the car up by quite a few inches. You can almost feel the car rising as you do that. So I've got quite a few modes. I've also got individual where I can set my own, how I want the car to be set up myself essentially. So quite a few things in there. If I hit the menu system here, again, I go into car. I've got, again, quite a few different things, same menu, but you can go in here and you've got a few other options around kind of drive select mode. You've got the vehicle settings, usual things, seat belts, seats, quite useful actually. So for the passenger driver seat, you can adjust easy entry, store your settings in here. You also have a few adjustments down the side of the seats. If I hit one of these buttons down here, you can see then it starts to tell me where I want what I want to adjust and where. So I can adjust my leg support, and I can adjust my lumbar support as well, just from the controls down the side, which is just down here. So all useful stuff. Now, one thing I did mention about this car, which is a bit annoying, is not all of them have the memory pack. So this is quite a weird one, because we could hardly find many that had the memory pack in terms of seats. This one has it on driver's side and also passenger side. And I'll probably be corrected, but I think you can buy them individually or something like that. It was quite a weird thing. Because we assumed wrongly that most cars would have, in this age, this kind of spec, would have a memory function. Not so much. So something to, again, I think I mentioned before, something to keep an eye on is that if you want a memory seats, if there are people sharing the car, make sure you do have a think about it. Make sure you ask the question. Make sure that it's on both sides as well if you need that. So aside from that, other things that the car has, you know, it has the usual kind of climate control. You can control all the different 4 zones. It does have some controls in the back here as well. Now you can get a higher spec car that has more controls in the back. We weren't too worried because, again, we normally just set it to one setting and that's kind of it. You've got your carbon, so it does have some nice little carbon inserts, and then it's got your kind of steel all the way along the grills here. So that's kind of key things around the front. Let's take a look in the back real quick. Now in the back, so a couple of things we've got. One, all around we've got the Bose upgraded sound system. We also have the diamond stitch seating as well, which is really nice actually. It just gives it a nice look, a nice touch. It's quite comfortable to sit on as well, no harder than the regular seats. So as I mentioned, it is a proper 7-seater, so we've got 5 seats up at the moment, and therefore huge space in the boot where we've got the dog cover as you see, but I'll move that in a second. Now one of the useful things about it is each seat does slide independently. So under here you've got your sliding bar. I pull that, I can move the seat forward by quite a bit. You'll see there, slide it back. Now again, as I mentioned, each seat independently slides, so I can move the middle seat forwards. You see by quite a margin. I can also recline the seats back as well. Seat reclines quite a bit back, and again, all of them independently. So the thing about having only one of you, each seat independently reclines, and I can flip those back up as well. And all the way along I can have it like that. So I've got 2 seats in the middle, one seat either side, seat in the middle down. And let me just pull that back up. I've also got my standard armrest here as well in the middle seat. Flick that up, you've got 2 cup holders there also. Independent full seat belt in the middle, so 3-pointed seat belt there. Just slide this one forward. Again, I'll just flick this one forward a bit. As you can see, tons and tons of space in the boot, really big boot. Get rid of the dog cover. Got a few controls here. That brings your seats up. So you can see here, electronic back seats. Flick those up, headrest up, and you're good to go. It does have only 2 seats in the back, but that's kind of expected for a car like this. Most these 7-seaters have only 2 seats in the back. They're not movable in terms of back seats, only up and down. Another cup holder here. You've got loads and loads of air vents. So there's plenty of kind of ventilation in the back. Speakers in the ceiling, even in the back row. You got lights, back row, middle row, and front as well. Now if I just go back, move the seats out the way. So all the controls are here as I mentioned before. So I will just move that out of the way. And again, the cool thing about it, you don't have to move the seat all the way out of the way in order to get into the back. But essentially what you've got here, if I now pull that handle up and flick that up, you got your access to the back row of seats. I'm just going to jump in here. Now you can see I'm 5'10", and I have about that much knee space with the seats in the middle forward a bit and relatively upright. So it isn't huge, but it's enough space for an adult to sit in the back for a relatively short to medium length drive. I wouldn't say go all the way to Scotland with a full grown adult, because they're going to want to get out and stretch, but good enough space to have a few people in the car comfortably moving around. And again, as I mentioned before, you'll see here, still got some boot space. So if you want some luggage in the car, we'll take a look at that. Again, just heading around to the back of the car, you do have the kick to open. And it wants to try one more time. All right, we'll go B plan. Okay, so as I mentioned, we do have dogs, so we've got the good old dog cover in the back here. But you'll see here from the position, you still have some space in the back of the car for luggage. You also have a few controls here to lower the car, so if you want to let dogs in and out. But also to put the seats back down, you can do that from here as well. So raise seats, you can lower seats from here. I can also put that seat back down if you want to get stuff in the boot quite quickly, rather than having to go back around to the other side. Now there is no lip, as you'll see here. In some cars you have like quite a raised lip. So if you do want to get heavy things in and out, no problem at all. You want to get your dogs in and out, again, no problem at all. So yeah, very easy, very practical, very easy to use car. So put that back, seat back up, flip that back a bit and we're good to go. Okay, so that is kind of my short review on the Audi SQ7. And again, just in summary, if you're looking for a car that is fast, economical, sometimes on the motorway I would say, but it's not, you're not buying a 2-litre diesel, you're buying a 4-litre V8. So you want a car that is good on the motorway, it is good for 7 people, 7 fully grown people, it will put a massive smile on your face, you can put your big dogs in the back and still have space for luggage. I would say probably consider at least test drive and see if you're happy with an Audi SQ7. All right, thank you very much, Phil. Enjoy.